It started like any normal night. I was driving my cab on the late shift. City lights glowing, rain tapping softly on the windshield. Nothing strange. Just the usual passengers heading home from parties, bars, and bad decisions. Then I got the request. No name. Just a pickup location near the edge of the city. Quiet street. Almost no lights. I pulled up to the pin on the map and waited. She was already standing there. A woman, maybe in her late 20s. Pale face, dark coat, no umbrella. Just standing in the rain like it didn't bother her. She didn't wave or smile, just got in and said one thing. 1413 Greystone Drive. Her voice was soft but clear. I repeated the address, typed it into the GPS, and started driving. At first, I didn't think much of it. Just another strange fare. People act weird at night, especially this late. But after a few minutes, I noticed something. She didn't blink. I saw her in the rearview mirror, just staring out the window. Eyes wide, unblinking, not moving, not reacting to anything. I tried small talk. Long night. You live out this way? Basic stuff. She didn't answer, didn't even nod, just kept staring. I thought maybe she was tired, or drunk, or high, whatever. I just wanted to finish the ride. But then, something changed. The GPS started freaking out. The screen flickered. The map zoomed in and out, rerouting over and over. I checked the address again, typed it in manually. 1413 Greystone Drive. It popped up, but the street was blank. No street view. No houses. Just an empty road. I glanced back at her. Still there. Still silent. But something felt off. The air in the cab got cold. And I don't mean slightly chilly. I mean freezing. I could see my own breath in front of me. She didn't seem to notice. I cleared my throat and said, "Hey, just checking, this is really where you want to go?" Still nothing. Not even a blink. I drove slower. The city lights faded behind us. We were out in the dark now. No houses. No signs. Just trees and road. Then the GPS beeped once. "You have arrived." I looked up. We were parked in front of a long dirt driveway, barely visible through the trees. At the end of it, the house. Run down. No lights. No sound. Just sitting there like it had been forgotten. I turned around to tell her we'd arrived. But she was gone. Gone. No door sound. No footsteps. Nothing. The seat was dry. I swear it. The seat was dry. No marks. No prints. No sign anyone had ever been sitting there. But I know what I saw. I remember her voice. Her cold silence. I sat there, frozen, staring at the house. Then my phone buzzed. New voicemail. No caller ID. I hit play. It was my best friend's voice. But he died 2 days ago. I stared at my phone. My best friend's name didn't show up. Just no caller ID. The time said 2:44 a.m. I hit play, not even thinking. And there it was. His voice. But wrong. He said, "Why'd you drop her off there?" That was it. 5 seconds long. I dropped the phone. My hands were shaking so hard, I could barely breathe. He died in a car accident 2 days ago. I was at the funeral. I saw the casket. I talked to his mother. He was gone. So how could he leave me a voicemail? I tried to call back. Nothing. No ring. Just silence. I checked the call log. There was nothing there. Like the message had never existed. But I still had the audio. Still had his voice. And what he said, "Why'd you drop her off there?" kept looping in my head. Because I didn't tell anyone about the woman. I hadn't even processed what happened yet. I turned to look back at the house. Still there. Still dark. Still dead quiet. But now I noticed something new. The front door was open, just a crack, like it was waiting. I didn't go inside. No way. I just put the car in reverse and got out of there. No music, no radio, just the sound of my tires crunching gravel until I hit pavement again. Back in the city, everything felt too bright, too fake, like the world didn't know something was wrong yet. I went home, locked my door, and tried to forget. Didn't work. The next night, I checked my voicemail again. There was another message. Same time, 2:44 a.m. Same thing, no caller ID. But this time, it wasn't my friend's voice. It was mine. Talking. Only I never said these words. I'm going back. I deleted it. Or tried to. It wouldn't go away. And every time I closed the app, it just reappeared. Same message. Same voice. Over and over. I covered the phone with a towel and left it across the room. But I couldn't sleep. Because deep down, I knew something followed me from that house. Or maybe something was still waiting inside it. You said, Chapter 3. ChatGPT said, I didn't go to work the next night. I called in sick, first time in years. But how could I drive again, knowing what happened last time? What if she showed up again? What if I drove someone to another place like that? All day, I kept checking my phone. I didn't want to, but I couldn't help it. Every hour, I opened the voicemail app just to make sure the message was still there. To us. I'm going back. My voice. I still don't remember ever saying those words. Around midnight, I heard a knock at my door. I froze. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. Another knock. Louder this time. Slower. I grabbed my phone and crept toward the door, barely making a sound. I didn't ask, who is it? I didn't want to know. But the knocking stopped. And something slid under the door. A photograph. I picked it up slowly. It was a picture of my cab. Right outside that same house. But the weird part? I wasn't the one in the driver's seat. The window was rolled down, and the person driving looked like me. Same jacket. Same face. But something was off. The eyes were too dark. Too empty. And the passenger? That same woman. Only this time, she was smiling. I dropped the photo like it was burning. Ran back into my apartment, locked every door, pulled the curtains shut. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. My phone buzzed. Another voicemail. 2:44 a.m. No caller ID. I didn't want to listen, but I did. It started with the sound of my car. The engine running. Then the GPS voice. You have arrived. Then silence. Until a voice whispered, you never dropped me off. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Because if I never dropped her off, then what happened that night? And who or what did I leave at that house? You said, I barely slept after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face in the rearview mirror, those wide, unblinking eyes. That frozen smile in the photo. The sound of her voice, soft but sharp, replaying in my head. You never dropped me off. I started questioning everything. Did I imagine the whole ride? Did I actually drop her off? Could someone be messing with me? But how would they know my best friend's voice? I needed answers. So I did something stupid. I went back. Same road. Same time. Almost exactly 24 hours later. This time, I brought my friend's old phone with me. The one his mom gave me after he died. I hadn't looked at it much. It was just too hard. But I turned it on and brought it with me. The road to Greystone felt longer this time. Every turn looked the same. Trees, fog, darkness pressing in on the windshield. When the GPS said, you have arrived, I stopped. The house was still there. Still dark. But the front door was closed now. I didn't get out of the car. I just sat there, engine idling, staring through the windshield, waiting for something, anything, to happen. Then my friend's phone buzzed. I looked at the screen. One new voicemail. No number. No timestamp. Just a black screen and the word play. I hit it. What I heard made my stomach twist. It was me. From 2 nights ago. Driving. Same engine noise. Same GPS voice. Same exact moment I dropped her off. But in this version, I said something I don't remember saying. I'll be back tomorrow. I promise. And then I laughed. But it wasn't my laugh. It was deeper. Slower. Like someone copying my voice, but badly. Too perfect in the wrong ways. I dropped the phone in the passenger seat and stared at the house again. The front door was open. Not wide, just enough to see the darkness inside. Then I looked up at the rearview mirror, and my heart nearly stopped. She was sitting in the back seat, silent, still smiling, like she never left, like she'd been there the whole time. But this time, she whispered something. So quiet I almost didn't catch it. You're the one who never left. I turned around in a panic, but the back seat was empty. Completely empty. No sound. No trace. Just me. Alone. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. Because my cab wasn't empty. Not anymore. I drove home with the windows down. It didn't help. I kept checking the rearview mirror every few seconds, like I was afraid she'd be there again. That pale face. That quiet stare. But the back seat stayed empty. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. When I got home, I locked the car, ran upstairs, and shut every window, every curtain. I even turned all the mirrors to face the wall. Something felt off, like I'd brought something back with me. Not a person, not exactly. More like a shadow. A presence that didn't have a shape yet. I took a long shower, trying to wash the cold off my skin. It didn't work. The cold wasn't outside me anymore. It was inside. At exactly 2:44 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Another voicemail. But this time, it wasn't from my phone. It was from my friends. The one that should be completely dead. Disconnected. But the screen lit up. Voicemail. From me. I didn't understand. I hit play. It started with static, then my voice came through, whispering like I was talking from far away. She's still in the car. I froze, because right then, I heard something move outside my apartment. A soft click. The sound of a door handle turning. I turned off the lights and crept toward the peephole. Nothing. Just darkness. No footsteps. No knocking. But I felt it. Something was there. Waiting. Not outside my apartment. Inside the car. I grabbed my keys and looked down through the window. My cab was parked exactly where I left it, under the street lamp. But the inside lights were on. Faint. Flickering. Like someone had just opened the door and didn't close it all the way. I should have called someone. The police. A friend. Anyone. Instead, I went down. I don't know why. I just had to know. Every step down the stairwell felt heavier, like I was walking deeper into something I couldn't get out of. I approached the car slowly. Light still on. Door still ajar. I opened it. Empty. Totally empty. No woman. No bag. No trace. Just the smell. Not rot. Not perfume. Something colder. Like wet metal. And on the driver's seat, a note, folded in half. My name written on the front, in my handwriting. I unfolded it with shaking hands, and said, check the meter. That was it. I looked up at the dashboard. The meter wasn't zeroed out. The trip was still running, and the screen said, rider, what? Time, 72 hours. Destination, profit. Then it blinked. Greystone Drive. Final stop. And then the screen went black. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my apartment, every light on, clutching my keys like that would somehow keep me safe. But nothing felt safe anymore. Not my cab. Not my home. Not even me. Because the meter had said, Rider 1. I was alone. Wasn't I? At sunrise, I tried to convince myself it was a glitch. Maybe the system freaked out, logged an old ride. Maybe I was imagining things. Lack of sleep, stress. But deep down, I knew better. Something got in my car that night, and it never got out. Later that day, I checked the cab's dash cam. I hadn't looked at the footage yet, too afraid of what I might see. But I needed answers. I loaded the memory card onto my laptop and opened the folder. All the files were blank, except one. It was labeled with a time that hadn't happened yet. Tonight, 2:44 a.m. I stared at it, didn't touch it. How could there be a recording from the future? Then the file auto-opened, and it started playing. I was in the driver's seat, eyes wide, breathing hard. The meter said, Rider 2. I turned to look at the back seat. The camera glitched. For just a second, the screen went black and white, and I saw her, clearer than ever before. Her face was inches from the lens. Pale skin, wet hair, eyes that looked too big for her skull, like they were stretching outward, like they were watching me now. Then the footage skipped forward. Now I was parked in front of the house again. Same place, same darkness. I watched myself step out of the car, walk toward the front door, and just before I opened it, I turned back to the camera and smiled. Not a scared smile, not nervous, a calm, hollow smile, like I was glad to be back. Then the video cut off. I sat there in my chair, heart thudding in my chest, staring at the screen. I hadn't gone there yet, but that video said I would. And not just go, return, like I'd been there before, like maybe some version of me never left. I grabbed my phone, checked the meter again in the cab app. It still said, trip in progress. Still said, Rider 1. But the destination had updated. It no longer said Greystone Drive. It said one word, home. And I knew it wasn't talking about my apartment. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Home. That word shouldn't have scared me. But it did. Because I knew it wasn't my address. It wasn't anywhere I'd ever lived. It was where she came from. And somehow, I had agreed to take her back there. Worse, I never ended the trip. It was still running, which meant I was still the driver. I left the phone on the table and walked away. Tried to clear my head, open a window, breathe. But every sound in my apartment felt too sharp. The ticking of the clock, the hum of the fridge, my own heartbeat. I felt watched. And not from outside, from inside. I turned back to the phone. The app had updated again. Rider 2. I stood frozen. The back of my neck went cold. Then it changed again. Rider 3. But I was alone. Wasn't I? I grabbed my car keys and ran outside. I needed to see it with my own eyes. The cab was still there, parked where I left it. From the outside, it looked normal, empty. But I knew better now. I opened the door slowly. The inside was dark. Too dark. Like the shadows weren't moving with the sunlight. I climbed in. Sat in the driver's seat. Everything felt wrong. The seat was cold. The air smelled like old leaves and metal. I checked the dash. The meter was still running. The display didn't just show a destination anymore. It showed something else. Stops remaining. 3. Next stop, unknown. I stared at that screen until it blinked again. Then the GPS lit up. It spoke aloud. Passenger requesting return trip. Proceed to coordinates. But the coordinates weren't on any map. Just a long string of numbers and a blank screen. I tried to shut the meter off. Tried to end the trip. It wouldn't let me. Every time I pressed cancel, the screen blinked and the car doors locked. All at once. Then I heard it. A soft breath. From the back seat. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I just sat there, fists clenched on the wheel, heart pounding so loud I thought it would break my ribs. Then my phone buzzed again. Voicemail. 2:44 a.m. No caller ID. I hit play. It was me, whispering, "Stop fighting. You already made the deal." And then another voice joined in. First, 3 more stops. Then you're done. I wanted to scream, but something in me already knew. I was just the driver, and she was far from finished. You said, I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Home. That word shouldn't have scared me, but it did, because I knew it wasn't my address. It wasn't anywhere I'd ever lived. It was where she came from, and somehow I had agreed to take her back there. Worse, I never ended the trip. It was still running, which meant I was still the driver. I left the phone on the table and walked away. Tried to clear my head, open a window, breathe. But every sound in my apartment felt too sharp. The ticking of the clock, the hum of the fridge, my own heartbeat. I felt watched. And not from outside, from inside. I turned back to the phone. The app had updated again. Rider 2. I stood frozen. The back of my neck went cold. Then it changed again. Rider 3. But I was alone. Wasn't I? I grabbed my car keys and ran outside. I needed to see it with my own eyes. The cab was still there, parked where I left it. From the outside, it looked normal, empty. But I knew better now. I opened the door slowly. The inside was dark. Too dark. Like the shadows weren't moving with the sunlight. I climbed in. Sat in the driver's seat. Everything felt wrong. The seat was cold. The air smelled like old leaves and metal. I checked the dash. The meter was still running. The display didn't just show a destination anymore. It showed something else. Stops remaining. 3. Next stop, unknown. I stared at that screen until it blinked again. Then the GPS lit up. It spoke aloud. Passenger requesting return trip. Proceed to coordinates. But the coordinates weren't on any map. Just a long string of numbers and a blank screen. I tried to shut the meter off. Tried to end the trip. It wouldn't let me. Every time I pressed cancel, the screen blinked and the car doors locked. All at once. Then I heard it. A soft breath. From the back seat. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I just sat there, fists clenched on the wheel, heart pounding so loud I thought it would break my ribs. Then my phone buzzed again. Voicemail. 2:44 a.m. No caller ID. I hit play. It was me, whispering, "Stop fighting. You already made the deal." And then another voice joined in. First, 3 more stops. Then you're done. I wanted to scream, but something in me already knew. I was just the driver, and she was far from finished. You said, I didn't know what else to do. The cab app wouldn't shut off. The voicemail wouldn't delete. And that line, "She's watching," kept circling in my head like a vulture waiting for me to drop. So I gave in. I got in the cab, put my hands on the wheel, and started driving toward Vernon Street Cemetery. I kept telling myself this would be the last stop. Maybe if I just finished the route, it would all end. I'd be free. The meter would stop. The voices would go quiet. But deep down, I knew I was lying. The streets were empty. Not just quiet, abandoned. Like the city had emptied itself out just for me. Every red light turned green the second I approached. Every intersection cleared. It felt like I was being guided. But I didn't touch the GPS. I didn't need to. It knew exactly where I was going. 2:32 a.m. 12 minutes to go. That's when the fog rolled in. Thick, blinding. I slowed down, but the GPS said, "Do not stop." My fingers tightened on the steering wheel. My eyes darted to the rearview mirror. I didn't see anything at first. But then something moved in the fog. A figure, standing by the road, arms at her sides. Face hidden. I didn't stop. I couldn't. But I looked again, and she was gone. until she was right next to the car, then behind it, then ahead again. No footsteps, no movement, just appearing, over and over. I stopped looking. I just stared at the road. 2:43 a.m. 1 minute. I pulled up to the cemetery gates. They were already open. No lights, no security, just that choking fog rolling over the gravestones like smoke. The meter ticked. Arrived. I waited. No one opened the door. No one got out, because no one had ever gotten in. I looked at the passenger seat. Empty. Back seat. Empty. But the meter still read. Passenger 1. So I asked aloud for the first time since this started, "Who are you?" And then the radio turned on. Crackling. Hissing. Then her voice. Not in the back seat. Inside the car. Inside the speakers. "You drove me here before. Don't you remember?" I shook my head. Tried to speak. But my mouth was dry. I didn't remember. I couldn't. Then the glove box popped open by itself. Inside was an old photo. Black and white. Me, standing by this very cab. Same jacket. Same tired face. Same cemetery. But the passenger in the picture was her. Hand in mine. Both of us smiling. Like we'd done this before. Like I'd done this many times. And below the photo, scribbled in shaky handwriting, "You always come back." Then the cab engine shut off. Lights dimmed. And the meter blinked. 2 more stops. I didn't drive home that night. I couldn't. The engine wouldn't start again, and part of me didn't want it to. I just sat there in the driver's seat, inside the cemetery gates, staring at that old photo. Me and her. Smiling. Like we were friends. Like I knew her. But I didn't. At least, I thought I didn't. And then I started to wonder, what if I wasn't remembering because I wasn't supposed to? What if that first night, the night she vanished, wasn't our first ride together? What if this was a loop? I tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. None of them would. I was locked in again. And then the meter blinked. Next stop, Red Hill Tunnel. Estimated arrival, 2:44 a.m. Passenger, boarding. Boarding? That's when the back door unlocked itself. I didn't move. I didn't turn around. But I heard it. The sound of fabric on vinyl. A slow, steady breath. The kind of breath that doesn't belong to someone living. I felt the seat shift behind me just slightly. Just enough to let me know I wasn't alone anymore. And then the cab engine started, on its own. The headlights flicked on. The car began moving even though I hadn't touched the pedals. Hands still on the wheel, I whispered. "Where are we going?" No answer. But the GPS lit up with a warning. Final approach. Do not exit vehicle. We passed through the cemetery gates, back onto the main road. But everything felt wrong. Like the world was glitching around me. Buildings looked older. Signs were missing letters. The air smelled like dirt and mildew. And then the road dipped downward. Into darkness. Red Hill Tunnel. A long-abandoned stretch beneath the city that had been shut down for years after a fire. I remembered reading about it once. Smoke, no survivors, mystery. They said no one should go near it. But that's exactly where the cab was heading. The tunnel entrance was caved in, covered with warning tape and rusted fences. Didn't matter. The moment the cab reached it, the headlights blinked, and the road was clear. Like it had been waiting for us. I took a deep breath and let the car roll forward. Inside it was pitch black. The headlights barely lit a few feet ahead. The walls were burned, charred, like the place had been cooked from the inside out. Then the radio crackled again. "Second to last stop," her voice whispered. "Don't forget to leave something behind." I didn't understand. Leave what behind? Then the cab lights flickered and I saw them. Handprints. All over the inside of the glass. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Pressed from the inside. Well, smudged. Some dragged across the windows like they were trying to get out. And one, right on my side window, appeared as I watched. I turned sharply. Nothing. No face. No body. Just the echo of her breath in my ear. You've done this before. You just don't want to remember. The car slowed to a stop deep inside the tunnel. The meter blinked. Stop complete. Passenger, departed. Rider remaining, 1. I looked into the mirror, and for a split second, I saw myself in the back seat. Eyes closed. Mouth open, as if I was screaming silently. And then it was gone. I was alone again. Or maybe I finally wasn't. I didn't remember turning the car around. But suddenly I was driving again. Out of the tunnel. Back into the city. Only it wasn't the city I knew. The buildings were still there. The streets were the same. But everything looked faded. Rotten. Like time had peeled it back and left it to die. No people. No cars. No sound. Just the hum of the engine and the steady tick of the meter. One stop left. That's what it said on the screen. Next stop, Black Hollow House. ETA, 2:44 a.m. Passenger, final. The name meant nothing to me. At least, not at first. But when the GPS took the next turn, my stomach dropped. Because I knew the road. I hadn't been on it in years. Maybe decades. But I recognized every cracked sidewalk, every broken street lamp. This was the neighborhood I grew up in. And at the end of that street, past all the dark windows and boarded up doors, was the house I swore I'd never return to. My childhood home. Only now, it wasn't mine. The sign out front had changed. It didn't say my family's name. It said Black Hollow. The cab rolled to a stop on its own. The engine shut off. The doors unlocked. The meter flashed. Final passenger, awaiting. I stared at the front door. It was already open. Just a few inches. Inviting me in. Or maybe daring me. I stepped out of the cab. The air felt thick, like walking through a memory. The grass was dead. The trees bent inward, like they were listening. Every window in the house was black. No light. No movement. But I could feel it. She was here. Not just the girl. All of them. Every passenger. Every ride. Every whisper in the back seat. They were waiting. I walked up the steps. Each one creaked under my feet, just like they used to when I was a kid trying to sneak in past curfew. The door opened wider as I reached it. No wind. No hands. It just wanted me in. Inside, the air smelled like old smoke and something sweet, like rotting fruit. The walls were peeling. The pictures were all gone. Except one. At the end of the hall. A photo of me. Sitting in the driver's seat. Smiling. But the eyes weren't mine. They were hers. I kept walking. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted it to end. Maybe I needed answers. Room by room I searched. Dust everywhere. Silence screaming in my ears. Until I reached the basement door. Slightly open. The coldest air was coming from there. I went down the stairs, slow and careful. At the bottom, the room was empty. Except for a single chair. Facing the wall. And in that chair was me. Or something that looked like me. Skin gray. Eyes wide. Mouth moving, like it was mumbling something. I stepped closer. And heard the words. Over and over, it was whispering. Just drive. Just drive. Just drive. The thing turned toward me. And smiled. Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was in the cab. Engine running. 2:44 a.m. The meter said, trip complete. But the line below it had changed. New driver assigned. And beneath that, passenger, due. I sat frozen in the driver's seat. The dashboard glowed quietly, like nothing had happened. No flames. No screams. No twisted version of myself whispering madness in a basement. Just the hum of the engine, and that one line staring back at me. Passenger. I looked around. Back seat, empty. Passenger seat? Empty. But the words still lingered. Passenger, as if the cab knew something I didn't. Or maybe something I'd forgotten. I checked the meter again. It had reset. No more destination. No time left. Just a countdown. Next ride in, 5 o'clock. 5 minutes. That was it. No option to log out. No button to cancel. I turned off the engine. Didn't work. Tried to open the door. Tried to call someone. No signal. Not even Wi-Fi. Just static where the bars should be. And then, slowly, the radio came to life. That same soft crackle. That same voice, whispering like it was buried in dirt. Now you understand. I shook my head. Whispered, understand what? The voice answered without hesitation. You made the deal. You drove them. You brought them back. And now it's your turn. No, I said. I never agreed to any of this. But I was lying. Because deep in my chest, in some dusty locked room of memory, I knew. This wasn't my first ride. Not even my 100th. I'd done this before. More than once. More than me. I looked in the rearview mirror again. And this time, it didn't show the back seat. It showed another road. Long, black. Endless. A road that went somewhere no GPS could find. Then the countdown hit 0. The meter blinked. New passenger assigned. Name, Daniel Clay. Status, deceased. Time of death, 2:44 a.m. I blinked. Daniel Clay. That was my name. The name I hadn't heard since before the first ride. Before the night she got in. Before I forgot who I was. And it all came back. Fast and brutal. The deal. The offer. The choice. Drive or disappear. I had taken the wheel to escape something worse. And now, I was the wheel. I wasn't driving anymore. I was part of the cab, built into it, trapped in it, passed on to the next driver. My phone lit up. Unknown number. Voicemail. 2:44 a.m. I pressed play. It was my voice. But not today's voice. A younger one. Tired. Broken. If you're hearing this, it means the ride ended and someone else is about to begin. You can't stop it. You can only pass it on. Then silence. Until the final line, whispered in that same cracked voice. Just drive. And suddenly, I wasn't the driver anymore. I was in the back seat. Watching. Waiting. For the next one to take the wheel. The cab was moving again. I don't know how. I wasn't driving. I was in the back seat now, watching the world pass by through windows that didn't feel like mine anymore. The city looked different from here. Slower. Duller. Like it was being seen from behind a glass wall underwater. And the driver. I couldn't see his face clearly. He was young. Nervous hands. Kept glancing at the mirror, like he could feel me sitting there, but didn't want to believe it. I understood. Because I'd once sat where he sat. Eyes wide. Mind racing. Telling myself it was just another ride. Just another fare. It never was. The meter blinked softly. The green light was gone. Now it glowed red. New route assigned. Passenger, active. Driver, in trial. In trial. That's what they called it. The stage before the mind breaks and memory starts leaking like oil from an engine. Where the new driver still thinks this is a job. Still believes there's a way out. The voice on the radio came back. Not hers. This time it was mine. The one from before. The version of me that had fully become part of the car. Do not exit the vehicle. Do not speak to the passenger. Do not ask questions. The driver turned the volume down. Didn't matter. The rules were already inside him. I watched as he pulled up to a small motel on the edge of the highway. The kind of place where stories go to die. The door opened. A woman got in. Not her. Not the girl. Someone new. Middle-aged. Tired eyes. She didn't speak. Just nodded and shut the door behind her. And as soon as she sat down, the driver's shoulders tensed. He felt it. That shift. That weight. Like something far older than the car had joined him. He looked into the mirror again. I leaned forward slightly. He saw me this time. Just a flicker. A blur. Enough to make his heart jump. I didn't want to scare him. But part of me hoped he'd understand. because this was how it always started. The first strange passenger. The first impossible moment. The first night when the ride keeps going after the map ends. I wanted to warn him, to tell him to get out now, to scream, "You're not just driving a cab. You're carrying the dead." But it was too late. The meter blinked. Destination locked. Cold Creek Asylum. Arrival 2:44 a.m. Of course. Always 2:44. Like time itself was part of the route. The cab turned back onto the road. The world outside was fading again. Shadows stretching longer. Colors draining. Another ride had begun. And I was still in the back seat. Still watching. Still waiting. Because that's what we do now. We don't leave. We don't escape. We just pass it on. One ride at a time. The driver didn't speak for the first 10 minutes. He just kept his hands locked on the wheel, knuckles pale, eyes flicking between the road and the mirror. He couldn't see me clearly, no one ever does at first, but he knew I was there. They always know. The woman in the back seat didn't move. She just stared straight ahead, breathing slow and shallow, like she was waiting for something, or maybe someone. The GPS glowed dimly in the dash. Destination, Cold Creek Asylum. ETA, 2:44 a.m. Distance, 6.6 miles. That place. The name alone made something twist inside me. I remembered that stop. Too well. It was one of the first places the cab ever took me. A place where reality bent and time folded in on itself. A place full of doors that didn't lead anywhere and windows that showed memories that didn't belong to you. And now this new driver was heading straight for it. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't, because the cab won't let you look away from what you need to see. He passed a gas station. Empty. An intersection. The lights were flashing red on all sides, though no cars were there. Then came the first sign. Not a street sign. Not something real. Just a figure on the side of the road. White dress. Head down. Hair like dripping shadows. He didn't stop. But he looked. He always looked. She was gone a second later. But something had changed in the car. The air turned colder. The light inside the dashboard flickered once. Then again. The woman in the back seat? She started whispering. Not to him. To me. Her lips didn't move. But I heard it. In my head. Clear as if she were sitting next to me. You brought them here. You drove everyone. Now it's his turn. I wanted to speak, but I had no voice anymore. Not really. Just presence. Just memory. Just passenger. The GPS started to glitch. Lines jumping, the map spinning. And then came a voice from the radio. Rerouting to memory. I knew that line. I hated that line. Because it didn't mean a detour. It meant a test. And sure enough, the road began to shift. Not turn, not bend. Change. It was no longer asphalt. It looked older now. Cobblestone, like something out of another century. The trees lining the side of the road were dead, hollowed out. And every few feet, a shape hung from a branch. Shadow bodies. No movement, just watching. The driver gripped the wheel tighter. He whispered, "This isn't real." But the cab didn't care what he believed. It just kept driving. Cold Creek was close. I could feel it before I saw it. The woman in the back seat finally spoke aloud. One word. Remember. The driver jerked in his seat. He looked in the mirror. Right at me. And this time, this exact time, he saw me fully. He screamed. The cab didn't stop. He tried to open the door. But he tried the windows. And then the asylum appeared on the hill. But windows like ice. And the front gate slowly opening without a sound. The meter ticked forward. 2:43 a.m. The last minute before arrival always feels the longest. And the most important. Because that's when the cab asks its quietest question. Will you keep going? This new driver. He was close to the answer. But what he chose, Whether to face what was inside Cold Creek or try to turn back, that part was still coming. And I already knew. Once you see Cold Creek, you don't forget it. You never leave it the same. The gates of Cold Creek Asylum opened wide as the cab approached, slow, silent, like they'd been waiting all this time. The driver stopped the car just before the entrance. I could tell he wanted to turn around. His hand hovered over the gear shift. But the meter blinked again. ETA, 2:44 a.m. Time remaining, 0:01. Only 1 minute left. And the voice returned, mine, distorted through static. You're already inside. He looked up and I saw it hit him. Because outside the windshield, the road was gone. No more trees. No more night sky. Only the asylum now. Towering. Breathing. It looked like it had grown from the ground itself. Made of cracked stone and rusted gates, with broken windows that reflected nothing. He stepped out of the cab. I stayed seated. I always stay. That's what passengers do. But I watched him walk up those crumbling steps, past the rotted doors, and vanish into the dark. For a second it was quiet, but the cab didn't like silence for long. The meter reset again. Ride in progress, internal route, driver status, in memory, and the screen on the dash changed. Live footage. From inside. From his eyes. He was walking down a hallway now. Lights flickering. Water dripping somewhere. I could see what he saw. And I could hear it too. A soft humming. A lullaby. The same tune the girl from my very first ride had whispered in my ear just before she vanished from the back seat. He turned a corner. There were rooms on each side. Old patient rooms, but wrong. Each one looked like it belonged to someone else. He peeked inside one. It was a nursery, right, full of toys. But no children. Only shadows in the corners. Tall and still. He shut the door fast and kept going. I wanted to tell him to run. To leave. But there's no escape once you enter Cold Creek. The next door opened on its own. He stepped inside without meaning to. And I saw it. A chair in the center of the room. Facing the wall. A figure sitting in it. Shaking. Crying. He stepped closer. And as he reached out to touch the figure's shoulder, his vision glitched. And suddenly he was in the chair. Tied down. Struggling. Screaming. I could hear it from the dash. His heartbeat pounding through the speakers. And then her voice filled the car. Not the girl's. Hers. The one who owns the cab. One must drive. One must ride. One must remember. And the back door of the cab clicked open. Slowly. By itself. I felt cold. Real cold. I turned, and for the first time in what felt like years, I saw her, the girl from the first ride. Still wearing that red hoodie. Still barefoot. But her eyes, empty now. She slid into the seat beside me, looked ahead, and whispered, "He'll break. Like you did." The driver was gone. Inside now. Part of the house. And I realized the asylum wasn't a stop. It was a gate. And someone always had to go through it for the cab to keep moving. The meter blinked one last time. 2:44 a.m. Ride complete. But not for me. Never for me. Not until someone else takes my place. The cab started moving again. I didn't touch the wheel. No one did. But the engine purred like it had just been fed something it liked. Outside, the asylum faded behind us, swallowed by fog and shadow. The road ahead looked normal again. Street lights, cracked pavement, quiet neighborhoods slipping by in the dark. But everything had changed. I could feel it. In the seat next to me, the girl was gone. No door opened. No sound. She just wasn't there anymore. I looked back. Still no driver. Still no sound from the dash. Just the soft ticking of the meter, now completely blank. No names. No time. No fare. Just one line, glowing faint red. A waiting selection. And then my phone rang. The screen was black. No caller ID. Just the word, incoming. I answered without thinking. There was static at first, then a faint voice. Familiar. Broken. I saw them. I saw you. It was the driver. The one who walked into Cold Creek. Still alive? Not exactly. Something in his voice wasn't him anymore. There's no way out, is there? He asked. I stayed quiet. Not because I didn't want to answer, but because I didn't have the answer. Then he said, "She's still in here. She never left." I felt it in my bones. The girl. The first passenger. He continued, "She showed me everything. The first driver. The first ride. The deal you made. The deal I made. Long ago. Too long ago to remember fully. You passed it to me. And now I'll pass it on." And then the line went dead. The phone screen cracked. Right down the middle. Like the cab had marked me. The dashboard flared up suddenly, then glitched, showing a new message. Driver reset successful. New cycle begins. Next passenger, unknown. I looked in the rearview mirror. This time I saw my own eyes. But they weren't mine anymore. Not fully. Something behind them. Something waiting. I blinked, and the cab pulled to a stop. A man stood on the sidewalk. Hood up. Backpack. He looked lost. He raised his hand. Waved me down. I didn't want to stop. But I did. Because the cab wanted me to. Because I was the driver again. Because I always will be. He opened the door, slid into the back seat, and mumbled an address. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere far. The meter lit up. The route began. And as I pulled away from the curb, I felt the cold start to creep in again. Same as it always does. This isn't a cab anymore. It's a ferry. And I'm not a driver. I'm a guide. Between places. Between people. Between the living and whatever waits past the last stop. So if you ever get in the wrong cab, if the meter says 2:44 a.m., if the driver never speaks, get out. If you can. Because some rides don't end. They just start again.